The final whistle hasn't blown, and nobody on that pitch knows if they've just won or lost. A goal has gone in. The crowd is on its feet. Then, somewhere off in the distance, a referee raises his hand to his ear. The celebration freezes mid-air. Before you scroll away, hit subscribe, because this is the story FIFA does not want told, and by the end, you'll understand exactly why. FIFA spent years and a fortune building a machine meant to end the arguments forever. No more robbed teams. No more moments that haunt a nation for decades. Just clean, cold, technological truth. And here's the punchline nobody in Zurich saw coming: that same machine has become FIFA's actual nightmare. It has caused more fury, more heartbreak, and more accusations of cheating than any human referee in the history of the sport. The villain of this World Cup isn't a person. It's a system. And this is how VAR, the technology built to save football from controversy, became the biggest controversy of them all. To understand how badly this went wrong, remember what VAR was actually for. When it arrived nearly 9 years ago, the mission was narrow: catch the clear and obvious disasters, the game-changing mistakes no referee could spot with the naked eye. It was born out of injustices like Maradona's hand of God against England in 1986, the kind that scars a sport for a generation. Referee Mark Guggisberg, one of the men who helped bring VAR into the game, summed up the founding principle in 5 words: minimum interference, maximum benefit. Hold on to that phrase, it's the ghost haunting this entire tournament. VAR was never meant to re-referee football. It was meant to be a quiet safety net, catching only the disasters. The question was never, is the referee correct? It was, is the referee clearly and obviously wrong? Now look at what it has become. FIFA didn't dial VAR back this tournament. Refereeing chief Pierluigi Collina deliberately expanded the system into 4 brand new areas. The results are staggering. The 2018 World Cup saw around 20 VAR interventions total. Qatar 2022 had fewer than 30. This tournament blew past 100 before the quarterfinals, roughly 1 overturned decision every 2 matches. Red cards more than tripled compared to those 2 editions combined. The safety net didn't just grow, it swallowed the game whole. Minimum interference became maximum interference, and that's where it all falls apart. Because football's entire magic is momentum. The surge of a goal. The roar. The release. VAR sabotages exactly that. Croatia's disallowed goal took more than 2.5 minutes to overturn, 2.5 minutes of a nation celebrating before the rug was yanked out. Picture the same grim ritual replaying itself, match after match, everyone frozen on the pitch, sweating, waiting, while a referee jogs to a screen and disappears into a replay that seems to last forever. The players don't know if they're celebrating or defending. The crowd doesn't know whether to sing or sit down. That emotional rhythm, the thing that makes this sport unbearable in the best way, gets switched on and off like a faulty light. And FIFA has been unrepentant. Collina defended the most notorious calls directly, insisting there's no defined limit on how far back a review can reach to wipe out a goal, and that a foul is a foul no matter how invisible. That's FIFA staring at the wreckage and deciding the machine is working exactly as designed, which, in a horrible way, is the entire problem. Because here's what all that microscopic perfection actually produces. Picture Croatia against Portugal in the round of 32. Deep into stoppage time, on the last kick of their tournament, Croatia scored the most improbable equalizer imaginable. An entire nation erupted. Then, more than 2 minutes later, a screen took it away, not for a bad tackle, not for a shove, but because the ball had faintly brushed the hair of a Croatian player, by a matter of a follicle, leaving a teammate offside. The human eye couldn't see it, but a sensor buried inside the ball felt it. Croatia were out, and Luka Modric's international career ended not on a defeat but on a strand of hair detected by a computer. Modric didn't hold back, saying VAR is either being used incorrectly or selectively depending on the size of the team. His own federation went further, calling it flatly an abuse of technology. Think about that, a federation that supports VAR, calling FIFA's use of it abuse. And Croatia weren't alone, just the most poetic entry on a long list. Iran had 3 separate goals disallowed by VAR, one for a striker a single-toe offside on a goal that would have sent them into the knockouts. Senegal's World Cup ended on a late VAR penalty for the lightest imaginable contact. Egypt, 2 goals up and dreaming, had a brilliant goal chalked off for a foul nearly 100 yards from the ball, then watched a penalty shout at the other end go unchecked minutes before conceding Argentina's winner. Coach Hossam Hassan's verdict was simple and bitter: what's happening isn't fair. Then came Switzerland's quarter-final, where Breel Embolo was sent off after VAR turned a yellow card for an Argentine into a red for a Swiss player, a decision so tangled the BBC's own rules expert questioned whether it even qualified as the mistaken identity it was reviewed under. Swiss defender Manuel Akanji, near tears, said he'd never experienced such a one-sided game in his life. Over and over, the same scene. Pure joy. Then a referee jogging to a monitor. Then grief. Celebrations killed in their cradle by a man staring at a television screen. And it isn't only goals being erased, it's players being sent off. Red cards more than tripled this tournament, with 13 shown before the quarterfinals even arrived, including England defender Jared Branthwaite's, for a foul the referee missed entirely in real time, only produced after a screen replayed it in merciless slow motion. That's the quiet trap of slow motion review. Almost any contact looks brutal when frozen and crawled through frame by frame. Speed is context, and VAR strips the context away, then asks a referee to judge the freeze frame as if that's how the game was actually played. US defender Chris Richards summed it up: look under anything with a microscope, and you'll probably find something. That's exactly the problem: examine any tackle in enough forensic detail and you'll always find a technicality. A game where no celebration is safe until a computer signs off on it is a game slowly losing its soul. Think about what that does to the people playing. Strikers hesitate before they even start sprinting toward the corner flag. Defenders play with one eye on the linesman instead of the ball, because a full-blooded tackle in real time might get rewritten as a red card 20 minutes later. Commentators now add a nervous, but let's see if this stands, before the ball has even settled in the net. The instinctive, explosive joy that used to define football's biggest moments is quietly being replaced by collective hesitation. Former FIFA referee Christina Unkel put it best when she said football is an art, messy and subjective and human, and that is the entire point of it. The pursuit of black and white, machine-verified perfection is sanding all of that away, chasing the toenail offsides and hair follicle arguments that nobody watching at home actually wants deciding a football match. But here's where it curdles into something genuinely dangerous for FIFA, far worse than frustration. Because VAR is applied so inconsistently from game to game, it has bred full-blown conspiracy. When a system reaches back 100 yards and 30 seconds to disallow one team's goal but won't glance at a camera angle to check another's, people stop believing it's neutral. When it sends off a Swiss player barely 4 minutes after Switzerland equalized against Argentina, an entire internet decides the fix is in. Modric's phrase, depending on the size of the team, is the sentence now hanging over this tournament. Egypt filed a formal complaint. England manager Thomas Tuchel, hardly a man with a track record of excuses, called the officiating erratic and unreliable. And the single most explosive scandal of the summer, the Branthwaite red card that dragged in a phone call from the President of the United States, was born from a VAR decision. A system sold as the cure for doubt has manufactured more doubt than football has ever known. And once that doubt takes hold, it doesn't stay confined to one match. Fans rewatch old tournaments for patterns. Pundits count decisions by nationality instead of merit. Genuine post-match analysis has curdled into something closer to a courtroom. Look specifically at what has trailed Argentina, the clearest case study of how VAR poisons trust. The disallowed Egypt goal. The Embolo dismissal. Messi escaping any card at all for a studs-up challenge on Algeria's captain, a foul strikingly similar to the one that got Branthwaite sent off days later. Take any one in isolation, and you can defend it. Line them all up, falling the same direction, and you understand why favoritism became something fans asked out loud, not just joked about. The point isn't that any of it is proven, it's that a genuinely trustworthy system would never have let the question take root. So let's be honest, because the easy move here is to scream, abolish VAR, and that would be wrong. Most of those 100+ interventions this tournament corrected genuine errors. Branthwaite's stomp really was a red card once you saw it slowed down. Croatia's goal really was offside by the letter of the law. VAR exists precisely because of real, unforgivable robberies that once decided World Cups on a blink or a handball nobody saw. Bruce Arena, who coached the USA at the 2002 World Cup, still aches over a blatant German handball on the goal line that went uncalled and knocked his team out in the quarterfinals. "I wish we had it in 2002, he said. "We might have made it to the semi-finals." Nobody actually wants to go back to an era where a cheat's handball or a linesman's blink decides a World Cup. And as Arena pointed out, if you want to talk about killing a match's rhythm, the 3-minute hydration breaks FIFA slots in to sell TV adverts butcher the flow worse than any review does. The question isn't whether decisions should be correct. Of course they should. The problem is that technically correct and right for the game have quietly become two different things. Because football was never supposed to be perfect. It was supposed to be human. Uncle and many fellow officials have pointed to a way out: give referees back the discretion to look at a technically correct call and say, that's not the spirit of the game, play on. Let common sense overrule the computer. Whether FIFA has the humility to do that is another question, and when asked to explain any of this, FIFA declined to answer. 9 years ago, the promise was minimum interference, maximum benefit. This summer, we got the exact opposite, maximum interference, and a tournament where the loudest, most repeated story isn't a goal or a save or a moment of genius. It's a man in a room in Dallas, staring at a replay, deciding whether the thing you just celebrated is allowed to have happened. That was never the plan. But it's unmistakably what football has become, and unless something changes before the final whistle blows, it's the story people will remember long after the trophy is lifted. So here's the question for you. Has VAR ruined this World Cup, or would you take the old chaos of human error back in a heartbeat? Drop your take in the comments, and if you want more stories breaking down football's biggest controversies, subscribe, because the semi-finals are coming, and that screen in Dallas isn't done with us yet.